So here we are, NBA season has concluded, going on to the off season. But before we get deep into off season hot takes, I decided to take the time out to go out, look at all the takes throughout the entire season, bring them to the table as a montage, and just react to the worst takes of the 2024 NBA season. Boy, there's a lot that I missed out on over the year.
Carmelo Anthony with a more refined game, better range. I don't know if I'm getting anything on the other end. I don't know if his teams will succeed in the playoffs. I don't know if he's the greatest teammate, but buckets, yeah. This is Melo with a three-point shot. Like, you're just going to get a lot of points. I have my doubts. When people fell in love with James Harden, I'm like, you can't have the ball that much in your hands.
The fact that people just see a level of success or what they predict is going to be and then just draw that conclusion, especially if someone just blankly doesn't play defense and that's the comp. Like, why not just say he's Charles Barkley? Why not just say he's any other all-time great offensive player that hasn't won a championship? But trying to compare it to Melo of all players, when just from like a passing and playmaking perspective, like there is a drastic difference. But hey man, that's the conclusion you came to. And the fact that he would go on to go to the NBA Finals at the age in which he's at right now is crazy. Just crazy.
Luka is ball-centric. He's not changing. Carmelo wouldn't take a couple steps back and shoot threes as the game evolved and pivoted to a three-point league. They don't play defense. It doesn't look like they're in the greatest shape. They get very prickly, and GMs and coaches get fired trying to find the right complement to their game. They start hot, playoff success, plateau, and then eventually their lack of willingness to grow and evolve and play well with others is why they won't end up being Giannis or LeBron. There was a very short time early, LeBron, Melo. Melo had a couple of big wins over LeBron. Melo was the more refined offensive player. He'd been at Syracuse. He won a natty. The longer they played, the wider the gap got. And because basically LeBron would commit to being in great shape, being a great defender, getting well along with others, and evolving. Melo never did. Luka's not doing it. And I think you're stuck with a player.
Crazy. That's crazy. The fact that people, and I think people tend to forget that was the conversation, the identity around Luka for, the last 2 to 3 years leading up to this. Luka got Rick Carlisle fired. Luka and Jalen Brunson apparently didn't work out. Luka just couldn't really fit with anyone. The reason why they got Porzingis out of here because Luka didn't fit with him. And it's crazy because Luka, and I said this in a video on my main channel, I believe Luka's in NBA hell because the way that he plays basketball, the only way that anybody's ever going to justify how he plays is if he wins a championship, as if like there aren't several other all-time great players who haven't won a championship. But for the fact that that was a comp, Luka is comp to Carmelo Anthony, and the simple fact that people are already coming to conclusions and not knowing what was going to happen, be very mindful that Luka's already been to the conference finals. The fact that he went to the NBA finals this season really just shows a lot of people need to start opening up their identity and palette to what does or does not work in the NBA and not just go off of what they believe happened back in the day and why it's going to happen right now. But drawing that conclusion is crazy.
Warriors, finally, the entire unit is back, and I'll make my call. Warriors end up in the Western Conference Finals against Denver. I'm calling it out right now. Celtics Nuggets make the finals. Warriors get to the Western Conference Final.
To be fair to Colin, I don't think too many people thought that in the middle of the season, Draymond would miss so many games because he couldn't keep his hands to himself. He became a professional wrestler, putting people in headlocks. Like, I don't think people thought that. But also, I think that people should have assumed as well that the Western Conference was so steep that outside of really Denver, I don't know why anybody felt comfortable with putting anyone in the conference finals because that's how deep the Western Conference was. And come to find out, even Denver didn't make the conference finals. Not too bad, but the fact that that they didn't even make the playoffs, very telling. Very, very telling.
Los Angeles Lakers will be the first seed in the entire Western Conference.
Swish out saying so, brother. You had faith in my team like me, my nigga. You had faith like me. First seed is kind of crazy. First seed is crazy though, bro. I fuck with it. But first seed is crazy.
To some, because although they do have a very nice, well-balanced team all around, they're just not alone. Even with Denver losing Bruce Brown to the Pacers, there's still going to be a problem. The Suns roster looks incredible. The West in general is still pretty deep, so it's not an easy, definite thing to say, but I just really like the makeup of that Lakers team.
It's crazy because the Lakers, I mean, to go around about the makeup and how deep it was, I always felt like D'Angelo Russell was going to be traded regardless, but I never thought that the Lakers were going to be number one seed, just in large part because you don't know what you're going to get with Anthony Davis in terms of injuries, and LeBron is aging, and you're still asking a lot out of those players. I think a lot of people took the last year sample size post the deadline and thought that that was going to be expanded throughout the entire year, and to be fair, that could have happened if Darvin Ham wasn't coaching and decided not to play the 4 best players in the starting lineup. So sure, maybe that does happen, but nevertheless, first seed, I think even as a Laker fan, I think that was a stretch, in large part because playing Bron any significant minutes or not even knowing what you're going to get out of him and AD just because of injuries and age, pretty crazy. But shout out to the brother Swish Out. You know what I'm saying? Got faith in my team.
Yeah, they are going to be number 2 seed good. The Warriors at 3 because I've loved CP3 and Jonathan Kuminga so far in the preseason.
Bro, saying that the Warriors are going to be number 3 because of CP3 and Kuminga is nuts. Especially because Kuminga wasn't even starting. And Chris Paul, I dare any of you all to go look at in the past 2 years how often Chris Paul has taken a shot near the basket in the restricted area. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it myself actually before we move on. Because I don't think people really realize, bro, Chris Paul ain't moving not a thing. He not moving a needle. He barely getting to the basket. Nobody doesn't even defend him like that anymore. And to believe that Chris Paul, out of all people, is going to move the needle enough for you, crazy. Chris Paul this season took 14 shots in the restricted area. 14. Last year, Chris Paul took 26 shots in the restricted area. Bro, he not touching the paint if his life depended on it, bro. Oh my God.
Controversy is actually below the play-in line. 7 Kings, 8 Wolves, 9 Mavericks, 10 Thunder.
God damn, boy. Now, I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of people weren't expecting the Thunder to be the number 1 seed. I wasn't expecting them to be the 10th seed, though. 10th is crazy. 10th is crazy. I understand the Timberwolves thing. I understand the Mavericks thing. And it's also very important to go back with these takes because I thoroughly believe it gives an accurate depiction of like where people thought they were at, what these teams had to overcome. It really does give an accurate depiction of like what ended up happening because the idea of who Luka is, the idea of who that duo was, and Luka and Kyrie heading into the season, people were not high on it whatsoever. And a lot of people thought that they weren't going to make the playoffs, especially in a conference that was very, very difficult to make. So the fact that like, yeah, shout out to the Mavericks and the Thunder, bro. The Thunder getting number 1 seed is massive. The Timberwolves also top. That's actually crazy now I'm looking at it. Between the Timberwolves, Mavericks, and Thunder with his predictions, bro, those are playoff teams that look like some of the best teams in the NBA, period. The fact that he had them predicted to be barely playing teams and they flipped it to actually make a run in the postseason, pretty impressive.
So what are they gonna do? Either you gonna start drafting kids older, but yes, Gilbert.
I know what they can do. Get rid of all the Europeans.
Bro, I'll be honest with you, the run that Gilbert Arenas and them on this show had that was just breeding xenophobic. And some of it, I just think they joking. Like recently Nick Young came out and they were joking like, the Boston Celtics, they won for us, Americans, we back. Oh my goodness. Like I think they're joking with that. But I dead ass like the stretch that they went on with the European takes were ridiculous. And to make it even worse is that they were making arguments about Europeans that weren't applicable to them. Like sitting here saying, oh, look, Luka, he went out there, he put up 70 points against a team filled with Americans. Like most teams have majority Americans on their roster. So if you think it's a defensive problem, like literally 8 to 9 times out of 10, it's because of an American. So this whole defensive argument that Gil was getting off is crazy.
I'm with you now. I just
Right?
get
They
rid
don't
of
go
them
to college whatsoever. They have no athleticism.
Gil, some
they
come
have
over.
no athleticism.
They all come over and go
Hold
to
on.
Arizona.
They have no athleticism, right? They have no speed, no jumping ability. They are a liability on defense. There's 150 Euros in the league today. Name the top 10 defenders.
Yeah,
None.
I'm with
right? Just the Rudy Gobert and Greek the Freak. Other than that, they're just offensive players. They're not defensive players, right? So the NBA took away aggression They took away aggression to open up the Euro League. When they first started getting here, it was too rough for them.
And they didn't make it.
They didn't make it, right? So eventually, they softened the rules. They didn't soften the rules for the Americans. They softened the rules to open it up international.
Which is such an irrefutable lie. That is just a lie. And that's the thing that really bothers me. To sit here and to say that the reason why they changed the rules and made it less physical for European players, when they literally, it's set in stone. The people who were changing the rules from the rule committee in the late 90s, early 2000s was changing the rules because the game had slowed down to such a bore that it was unwatchable, that they need to up the tempo, make it easier to score like it was back in the 80s. There are specific references to how it was in the 80s when a bunch of Americans were playing basketball. Oh, a bunch of Euros came over and they couldn't make it. They couldn't last. Dirk came over, MVP, was easily one of the best players in the NBA during the 2000s. Also, wait, let me, I was gonna say a bunch of Africans, but you can't say Africans. He's specifically talking Euros. Also, when he also says Euros, he was talking about how Manu Ginobili also doesn't play defense. Remember that, even though Manu isn't a European, he's Argentinian, but whatever, right? Then also brought up Shea, but Shea's not European, but he's Canadian, but he can't use Africans because regardless, right? Also, I would very argue like someone like Dennis Schroeder is a solid defender as well. Like there's more than 2 defenders over in the Europeans, but I get what he's saying. He's trying to get this shit off. But the truth of the matter is, bro, defense is changing, is evolving, is becoming more team oriented, and that's the reason why even if they don't lack the athletic gifts to still be a positive defender, because most teams use team schemes defensively to where all 5 players have to be active in whatever they're running. But this idea that Europeans are the ones who are killing the league defensively, just go look at some of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. Like literally like 9 or 10 of the top 12 rotation players are all Americans.
Is Luka the best player on this team?
Do y'all hear the niggas in the It's about time somebody said that truth. Nigga, are you serious? This is the worst take. This is the worst take. There is not a world that any of us should ever live on where anybody believes that Luka and Kyrie is even a conversation, let alone believing that Kyrie is even better than Luka. No. No.
Production-wise. I didn't ask you that. Enough said. But in the MVP, he's the 4th best player in the NBA compared to the bullshit list from the other day. He in the MVP conversation, and in my opinion, I don't think he's the best player on this basketball team. But that's for another, never mind. Move on. Just sip my tea.
And just for clarification, they're responding to what they believe is to be a bad list that had Luka at like top 4, top 5 in the NBA before the season began. Kenyon Martin thought that it was egregious to put Luka in those conversations while not having Kyrie anywhere near close to that because he doesn't even believe that Luka is better than Kyrie. Bro, what are we doing? That was the worst take. And unfortunately, when that was going on, I was not like uploading on this channel with any level of frequency. So I'm so happy I took the time out to kind of go back and look at so many other different takes, because that is the worst take in the entire, and I do mean the entire season, that Kyrie Irving was the best player on the Dallas Mavericks. That's the worst take. Before I even go, man, huge shout out to some of the Twitter takes, in particular, good friend of the show, man, Jim Parks. Jim Parks, a lot of you Warrior fans, y'all swore up and down. You swore up and down y'all were going to be able to go deep into the postseason. You thought that y'all were going to win a championship. You thought y'all were actually going to compete, just for y'all to miss the playoffs in totality. Shout out to y'all, man. Round of applause, man. Shout out to y'all, man. I know you're going to blame it on Steve Kerr. Y'all don't want to blame it on Klay Thompson or Draymond or even Curry in some capacities. Sure, blame it on Steve Kerr. He definitely holds some blame. But shout out to Jim Parks, man. Shout out to the Warrior fandom out there, man. Y'all keep killing it on the timeline. But on that note, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you feel like I missed a take, please let me know. Also, as this video is up, I am streaming live right now on playback.tv/Lowe's Room as we are reacting to the drafts and some potential trades that are probably happening right now as he speaks, so make sure you go check me out over there. But if not, as always, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.